Are you planning a trip to Venice, Italy, but you don't want to spend a fortune? Well, who would, right?
Absolutely.
Well, today we're going to tell you some tips to make your trip to Venice budget friendly. Andrea and I live in Italy and we travel around the country all the time. And today we're going to share you some very important tips on visiting Venice on a budget.
hmm
Venice is one of the most stunning cities in the world, but it's also quite expensive to visit. So follow our tips to save some money when you visit Venice.
Stay tuned.
Hi everyone, I'm Rick.
And I'm Andrea. And today we have a few tips for you to save some money when visiting Venice, Italy. But first, if you like travel related videos like this one, now it is a great time to hit the subscribe button down below so you never miss any future videos.
And it might even save you some money.
Absolutely.
Now, while you're at it, why not share this video on social media, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe some of your friends or family are going to be visiting Venice soon and maybe they're also on a budget or would like to save a little money.
Absolutely. Let's do that. So let's begin our video about visiting Venice on a budget by talking about when is the cheapest time to go to Venice.
Very good question.
Thank you. The first very important thing to consider when planning a trip to Venice on a budget is seasonality. In fact, if you want to visit Venice during peak season, between June and September, the city will be packed with tourists, but also prices for hotels will be much higher. More about on that later. So, if you are looking to save some money while visiting Venice, consider going in the fall or early spring.
And it's beautiful during that time,
Absolutely
right?
beautiful. Now, if you want to go during the summer, one way to do it on a budget is to book hostels or guest houses. They probably want as fine dining or a view of the Grand Canal, but hey, they'll be cheap.
Mhm.
If that is not your style, the only way to get a deal on hotel by booking well in advance, like a year in advance. But if you do so, be sure to book a flexible rate in case something happens or something gets cancelled. So,
Yeah, you just never know. Definitely.
absolutely. If you are going between late October and the end of November, or January and end of March, with a very important
Mm.
exception that we'll tell you in a minute, hotel rooms are cheaper and the city is not as busy as it is during peak season, and in our opinion, is really beautiful.
Mhm.
However, there is an exception, the Carnevale. Venice Carnevale is a wonderful event that happens every year in the winter. During Carnivale week, the city is full of people wearing very elaborate costumes. It's stunning.
Yeah, I remember that time when we got to visit.
Oh, it was amazing. There are carnival parties and events pretty much everywhere in the city, and the city is packed with tourists,
Mhm.
so it might be more expensive.
Mhm.
Visiting Venice at Carnivale is fantastic, and in fact, we made an entire video about that,
Yeah.
and you can check it up here.
Yeah, that was actually a lot of fun to make.
Absolutely. However, it can also be very expensive. So, when is Carnivale, you might ask? Carnivals is always different every year, and the last day of Carnival, called Martedì Grasso or Mardi Gras, is always 57 days before Easter.
That sounds complicated.
Now, to keep it simple, if you are planning to visit Venice in February or in March, just do a quick search on Google, when is Venice Carnival this year, and you will be set.
Or you could just ask us in the comments below and we'll be happy to tell you.
Absolutely.
All right, so moving on to our next tip about visiting Venice on a budget, and we'll talk about where to stay. Now, like we explained earlier, hotels in Venice can be very expensive, especially if you want to stay right by St. Mark's Square or by the Rialto Bridge, or if you want that view of the Grand Canal. However, there are cheaper options for hotels if you want to visit Venice on a budget. For example, in the Cannaregio area of the city, you can find plenty of hotels and B&Bs that are very affordable and they're still within a short walking distance from all the main landmarks. Another good area to consider if you're on a budget in Venice is the Dorso Duro area, which you can see right here. So here in this area, you can find some very good budget-friendly options, all within walking distance, as you can see, to the main landmarks in Venice. Now, when booking budget friendly hotels in Venice, we strongly recommend you to read the most recent reviews on Google to avoid any surprise.
Absolutely.
And last, the cheapest option to save some money while visiting Venice is to stay in Mestre. Mestre is located on the mainland and it's connected to Venice city center by train. In Mestre, you can find cheap hotels for less than $100 a night. And then to get to the city center of Venice from Mestre, you can take the train from the Mestre station to the Venice Santa Lucia station. The trains run every few minutes and at the time of recording only costs a euro 50 per person one way. And the train ride is only 10 minutes. Now, be careful about the return train from Venice to Mestre, because after midnights, the train runs very infrequently or doesn't run at all. Now, as a bonus, you might be thinking about withdrawing cash from your hotel's ATM or an ATM nearby. Be careful of the bank fees because they're likely going to try and get you on foreign exchange. In my experience, it's best to keep, 100 or 200 euros for incidentals, and then you can use a credit or debit card from back home for everything else. Or, I mean, remember that ATM that wanted to charge me 25% in foreign exchange? Yeah.
Yikes. Let's move on to our next topic about visiting Venice on a budget, and we talk about transportation. The best way to explore Venice is by walking, and walking is free. So, by walking, you will save a lot of money in transportation. However, there are a few places in Venice that cannot be reached on foot. In fact, if you want to visit the beautiful island of Murano to see the glass blowing, or if you want to go see the colorful houses in the island of Murano, you will need to take the Vaporetto.
And it's a lot of fun to take that.
It is. Vaporetto is the Venetian equivalent of a city bus. If you are on a budget, the best way to visit Murano is to buy a city pass that costs 25 euros at the time of recording for the entire day. In fact, without the day pass, you will need to buy one-way ticket from Venice to Murano. The cost is 9,50 euro at the time of recording and it only valid for 75 minutes. Then, if you stay in Murano more than 75 minutes, you will have to buy another ticket from Murano to Murano. And then, if you stay for more than 75 minutes, you have to buy another ticket from Murano back to Venice for another 950.
Yeah, so that pass is definitely going to save you money.
Absolutely. Now, if you buy the day pass for the Vaporetto to go to Murano and Murano, you should use it as well to go down the Grand Canal at least once, especially at night. In fact, some of the most stunning buildings in Venice are on the Grand Canal and they can only be seen and admired from the water. And you can only do it if you go down by boat.
Yep.
Now, lastly, let's talk about gondolas.
Who doesn't want, right?
Absolutely. A gondola ride is very cool and very romantic. Also, it is a perfect photo opportunity for social media. However, gondola ride is not budget friendly and it might cost you up to $100 for a half an hour on a shared gondola depending on the time of the year. But there's a secret gondola ride that will cost you only 2 euros at the time of recording. This is the gondola traghetto. There are a few along the Grand Canal, but the most famous is the one at Santa Sofia, just a few steps away from the Rialto Bridge. Here you can cross the Grand Canal on a shared gondola and take the perfect photo opportunity for social media, and it only costs 2 euro at the time of recording. And you can do so as many times as you like because it's only 2 euros.
And we'll leave a link in the description for more information about the gondola traghetto, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so it's time to explore another aspect about visiting Venice on a budget, and we'll talk about the food. Eating in Venice does not have to cost a fortune. You just need to know where to go and what to order. That's like everything else,
Yeah,
I don't think,
absolutely.
right? Okay, so my first tip to save some money on food is to pick a hotel that has free breakfast. This way, you can have a nice big breakfast, load up, and then you only need a little lunch. Now, at lunch, we strongly recommend you to have the typical Venetian lunch called cicchetti. Cicchetti are the Venetian equivalent of tapas, but do not call them tapas.
Absolutely not.
You'll get in trouble. Now, in Venice, there are plenty of places that serve cicchetti for lunch, and, well, in our experience, the best and most authentic ones are in the less touristy areas like the Canareggio or the Dossoduro area. 3 or 4 pieces of cicchetti with a glass of wine.
That's called ombra in Venetian.
Yeah, this will cost you about 15 euros per person. Now, there's also little wine bars known as Baccari, and there you'll also get cicchetti and other little snacks and food items as well. Now, here's another important tip to save some money, and this is valid all over Italy, not just in Venice. If you want a coffee, an espresso, or a cappuccino, at the coffee shop, don't sit at the table, have it at the bar, or al banco, as they say in Italy. Al banco will cost, or an espresso, al banco will cost about €1.50, even at the super famous Cafe Florian. At the
In
table,
Mark, yeah,
right. Now, at the table, it'll probably cost you like 20 euros.
absolutely.
And also, you might be inclined to drink water. In Venice, tap water is perfectly fine to drink. So carry a reusable bottle, it's free, and away you go all day long.
Yeah,
Right?
just fill it up.
Now, dinner will be your most expensive meal, but again, if you stay away from the most touristy areas, you can find a good traditional Venetian meal for around 30 to 40 euros per person. One of our favorite areas for dinner in Venice is around the Rialto Market, where you can find plenty of traditional Venetian trattoria that don't cost a fortune.
Yeah,
And if you're staying at a place that does give you access to a kitchen, why not try cooking your own meal,
yeah.
right? There's lots of local supermarkets or markets, right, where you can buy fresh meat and produce. So you can save a lot of money by cooking your own food. Now, there is one thing to mention about the cafes and restaurants while you're there. Just pay attention because they'll probably have free Wi Fi. So, if you're on a budget and don't have a cell phone plan that covers Italy, you can use the free Wi Fi at your hotel, restaurant, or, of course, wherever you might find it.
Let's move on to our last tip of visiting Venice on a budget, and we talk about attractions. Venice is like an open air museum, and the whole city is an attraction. In fact, you can walk for hours in the city and admire the amazing buildings, the beautiful bridges, and the romantic canals all day long. Actually, it's our favorite thing to do in Venice. Also, you can take one of many free walking tours of the city. These tours are tip based, and you can decide at the end of the tour how much you think the tour is worth it. So you pay based on what you
Sure.
think it's worth it. Now, when it comes to attraction, you can save money in Venice by looking for museum passes. If you plan to see multiple museums, such as the Doge's Palace, the Correr Museum, consider a city pass, like the Venezia Unicap City Pass. That all allows you to entry the several places at the discounted price. Speaking of passes, there are also churches pass. Some major churches charge admission, like Basilica of San Marcos Museum areas, but you can find combo ticket or buy church pass that provides entry to several or multiple historic churches in Venice.
That's really good advice. Actually, we did that once. Now, speaking of churches,
For St. Mark's Basilica, the entrance to the main area is generally free, but there might be a fee to visit certain section of the church, like the museum upstairs or the treasury. Try to go early to avoid the long line, or book the skip the line option if the queue is too long. Weigh the cost versus the time. Regardless, always look for discounts. Students or seniors, you citizen over 65, can often get a reduced or free entry to museums. Always carry a valid ID with you. And if you are under 26 or have an ISIC card, always inquire about discount at museum, attraction, and even transportation.
yeah, that's really good advice.
Yeah. And if you're wondering, yes, you should visit at least the Doge Palace and St. Mark's Basilica, even if you have to pay. The Doge's Palace is not free, but we think it's totally worth the money. Also, you can buy combined ticket that includes the skip the line tickets to the palace and the skip the line tickets to the St. Mark's Basilica.
Mm.
And it's totally worth it.
Yeah, and believe me, you will need a skip the line ticket to get into St. Mark's. And of course, you can scan this QR code for tickets or check the link in the description to buy them.
Absolutely.
Well, folks, this is what we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed our video and that you've learned something. As usual, if you have any questions whatsoever, please leave a comment below and we'll try to answer as best as we can. In the meantime, we will see you in our next video.